cycle, and I always hit him up for advice. We talked a lot online about the direction of the club, our rules, our technical stuff, who in the MRA was cheating, and I'm really gonna miss that. I also used to bug him about his tattoos, and I don't have any, but I would always ask him about his tattoos, his new ones, what was going on, and I always asked him, I'm like, hey man, do you regret any of your tattoos or anything? And I don't know if you guys ever noticed, but he's like, I regret this fucking tattoo I got right here, the little one in the crease in his hair. He pointed that out to me, and I never really noticed it, but every time I'd see him and his big goofy smile, man, I'd look for that tattoo and I would laugh and laugh and laugh. And so we were at Pueblo the last round. It was Friday, and Carl comes rolling up into the pits, and he says, "Hey man, I fucked up." And I was like, "Dude, it's all good. I mean, nothing." He's like, "I forgot the tech stickers." He's like, "We're not gonna be able to tech bikes." He's like, "I fucked up." He's like, "Stupidest thing I've ever done." I was like, "Nah, it's all good, man." So we figured out a plan, and he signed off on everybody's bikes, and we were good to go. And so I went and saw Carl, and I said, "Dude, is that really the stupidest thing you've ever done?" He's like, "Stupidest thing I've ever done." I was like, "Was it stupider than the tattoo in the crease of your hair?" And he looked at me for a little bit, and he's like, "No." He's like, "That was pretty stupid." I'm just really gonna miss his big goofy smile, and anyways, Godspeed, Carl.
I'm freestyling here. My name's Nate. I met Carl probably when we were both 13. And for the first year that I knew him, I didn't even know his name because everybody I knew called him Egg. Because he used to have this massive shaved head. So the day I met him, there's that massive shaved head, this double XL Bad Brains shirt, these massive jeans. It was at this shopping center that we all used to skate at. And, you know, there we are skating, and just like Rod, first thing he says, "Dude, where'd you get that shirt?" That's Carl for you. So anyways, there was this big gap, and everybody was trying to ollie down it. And he's like, "I'm gonna do it, dude." And I was like, "That's pretty big, man." And he's like, "No, I'm doing it." All right. So we just charged at it as fast as he could, and before he even, I was like, that dude's gonna fall. And like, he ollied down that thing, and deck checked it, and slid on his chest, and mostly his face, and just got up, and there was just this hole in the nipple on his shirt, and he was so bummed. And so pretty much every story I have about Carl is either me laughing at him for getting hurt or him laughing at me for getting hurt. And I mean, you could see Carl's smile from space. And so I'm gonna miss him. Thank you.
So I'm Carl's uncle. And I met Carl when he was 5 years old. The first time I went to visit my sister in, I think, Wisconsin. And my experience was on one of those whirly-bird amusement rides you get at the county fair. And I agreed to go on this ride with Carl. And I got on there with him, and all of a sudden I had next to me this screaming and crying little kid that I knew nothing what to do at all with. Knowing my sister was going to kill me after having taken him on this ride. I'm an engineer. The only thing I knew how to do was try and explain what was going to happen and try and rationally let him know that the centrifugal force is soon going to push you this way, and then it's going to push you that way, and then we're going to go over here and there and everything. And he listened to me. And we got off the ride. He was no longer crying. He was no longer screaming. He wanted to go on it again. The thrill of victory, the agony of defeat. Many of you will recognize that from the ABC Wild World of Sports. They started every show with that phrase. I certainly did not expect a call like this, but I have to be honest, I cannot say that I was totally surprised. I suppose maybe because I'm a statistician and I deal with rare events. That's my job. I try and study and analyze rare events. And so I realized this is a rare event, and I realized that Carl engaged in activities that brought him closer to these rare events than many of us, certainly me. But it is no less painful to hear it. My next experience with Carl was when he was 12 years old. Each of Dan and Cindy's boys, when they turned 12, I think Dan was off on some assignment. He was off with the Navy one summer, and my sister had just moved to Virginia Beach, and I said, well, send him out to California. I'll take him to Disneyland, give you a break. So Carl came out to Disneyland, and we drove down Highway 5, beautiful ride down to Disneyland. I listened to God only knows what kind of music he had. And then we listened to Bach and Beethoven and Mozart, and I suspect that was probably the last time we ever heard Bach, Beethoven, and Mozart. But anyway, we had a very enjoyable time. We went to Disneyland, we went to Universal Studios and saw all the tourist experiences that they have to offer. And then the next thing, I'm into backpacking, and so I decided we would go backpacking. I promised we would go out into the woods and go camping. So our experience was to go to Yosemite and climb Half Dome. Now, I don't know how many people around here know Half Dome. It's the kind of the prime event in Yellowstone. And it is, I think, 8,000 feet up. And in that hike up, you go up to about 6,000 feet, and then you climb up some mountainous areas that looked very much like Pikes Peak, where he spent his last few minutes. And then the last 800 feet or so is a climb up the backside of this very smooth granite rock. And as you climb up there, they have put in cables. You climb on and you grab the cables and you walk up. And it's a pretty steep climb. It's maybe 45 degrees. And you look off to the right, and it slopes down about 3,000 feet. And if you look over to the left, it slopes down maybe 1,000 feet. And I remember before we go up there, explained it to Carl, okay, this is where you have to deal with your fear. You do not look off to the side and focus on that. When you get fearful, you just look ahead, you hold onto the rope, you take one step forward, next step forward, and you climb up to the top of the hill. And we got to the top, and it was beautiful. And we climbed to the bottom, and it was wonderful. And I remember leaving that feeling comfortable that Carl knew how to deal with fear. And in a sense, I saw Carl as a courageous man. And I think that is how I know Carl. Many of you have spoken how you have known him in many ways. I knew Carl as a man of courage. He looked at fear and did not shy away from it. He looked at fear, looked into the depths of his soul and what skill and talent and ability he had, and he stepped forward and tried to match himself to the challenge. Sir Edmund Hillary, the first person to have climbed Mount Everest, said that it is not the mountain we conquer, it is ourselves we conquer. Carl conquered himself. That is what Carl, I think, as I hear the speeches today, that's what I hear. That people say they saw Carl living to his fullest, conquering himself, addressing his fears, moving forward. And as we all gather and celebrate his life today, that is what we celebrate. And that is where Carl will live forever. In the spirit of courage and resiliency that we will all carry forward as a result of the example of Carl. May Carl live forever. Amen.
I was in a band with Carl's brother Chris. We're on our way out to Virginia, and I just heard nothing but great things. You know, Chris had never, Chris had always great things to say about his brother. And when we got out there and met him that day, he was the big brother that I always wanted. He was such a cool guy. He had such a cool, calm, and collective way about him. He turned me on to so many other people that I grew to love. And you guys are all here.